it's still a sacred relationship. It's like we are here, we have half an hour, 45 minutes, or however long we got, and we're going to talk about this energy, this life force that speaks to everyone.
Wow, I spent like 50 grand on this piece of paper. Okay, back in the box it goes.
I don't have to stay within the lines. I can go outside and it can still be beautiful, and it doesn't have to follow a certain structure.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So, would you like to introduce yourself to the internet?
Yes. Hi, Internet. My name is Kimberly Brathwaite, and I am a multidisciplinary musician. I'm a singer, songwriter, pianist, and composer.
Wow.
I'm starting to get into production as well. So this is me. Hi.
I'm curious of where it all started.
Oh, my God. It started, well, it didn't start with me. I was just born into a very musically gifted family. I mean, like so many, like mainly on my extended family. So my cousins, like most of us either play, sing, do production or something. So yeah, I remember I started singing when I was probably like 2 or 3. And I always recognized whenever people would sing a song that wasn't in the right key. So that's kind of where the beginning of like my perfect pitch started to develop, because I was like, that ain't it. Piano lessons started when I was 5, RCM, taught myself by ear.
Great.
Yeah, I feel like this is a book, not a conversation, but
Well, I've got to have some context. We're colleagues at the school that we teach at.
Yeah.
And we haven't had too many chances to talk prior to this. So I feel like get to know you, get some background, the whole bio summary of it all.
yeah.
I'm curious about your experience taking piano lessons. How did you enjoy that, if anything?
So in the system is what I call it now, like the Royal Conservatory, the system. So funny enough, I was one of those weird kids that didn't have a problem practicing. Like I kind of enjoyed the challenge of it all. Like no one had to tell me to sit down and practice. Like I just went and did it. Eventually though, it just felt really limiting because of the constraints within that system, because like they only do classical stuff and they act like all other music is like less than, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I got really frustrated, and I temporarily stopped taking it, like mainly because of life circumstances, like moving and couldn't bring my piano, et cetera, whatever. But then eventually I did get a keyboard again. My mom bought me like a little 61 key, not weighted keys keyboard. And then I started to like play by ear. And I remember like listening to Moonlight Sonata and like Christina Aguilera, some video game song, like whatever it is that I was into. And I would just sit down and figure it out.
How was that experience for you compared to reading sheet music and having a teacher breathe down your neck?
It was a lot more fun because I was doing what I wanted to do. And it was literally like, it was like unearthing this magical world of patterns where it's like, oh, that's a dominant set, even though I didn't have the language for it. But I was like, oh, that makes that sound. And if I just, play this chord over this note, and if I do this, and if I do this, and and then like I just kind of created my own language that way.
Now that you're a teacher, how do you teach your students knowing both of those approaches, whether the classical versus your exploratory? What do you want to share with your students?
So my number one, and okay, so I have this like running joke with my students. I'm like, I need to make a PDF document of all of my teaching philosophies, but I just haven't done it yet.
That's a good practice.
But basically what I want my students to understand and what I want to exemplify for them is that first and foremost, music has to live inside of you. Like it has to live in, like it's a matter of heart, not necessarily a matter of head. The head stuff and the math, like that comes afterwards. But like it's important that you connect with what you're doing and you connect with music on an emotionally intimate level so that it's real to you and that it actually means something real in your inner emotional world. And so what I do, I'm very ear heavy. So I like to teach my students how to hear things, because another part of my story that we'll probably get into later on is I sing in a gospel choir at my school right now.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes. And we learn everything by ear. We don't use music. Half the time, we don't even know what chords we're singing. Like sometimes our director will tell us like, hey, we're going to do diatonic planing here or whatever. But like half the time we don't know, we just we hear things and we sing it, and that's how it is for us. And we put on like the most amazing performances, like, it's like, how did that happen? And it's because it's so ear heavy. So I like to teach my students intervals, sing a fourth on top of this. What's the difference between a fourth and a fifth? What's the difference between a major and minor third? And I just get them to like be able to associate those sounds with certain feelings.
Very good. Is that for vocals primarily, or is it also piano?
Also piano.
Okay. Now, would you say all your piano players are singers and all your singers are piano players?
I wouldn't say that. I have one student who, like, I asked him to, my piano student, and I asked him to sing because I wanted to teach him the major scale, but using numbers.
Nice.
So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I wanted to get him to sing it. And he's like, no, I hate singing. I don't want to sing. And I was like, it's not that serious. Like, you could just do the thing. Yeah, so no, I wouldn't say, like, sometimes there is crossover. I have one student that is, like, I teach her both piano and voice. But yeah, that's just the one student.
I see. Now, so you came from a musical family, and there's a lot of music happening growing up, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. When did you make the connection that music has to come from the heart? Or did you always have a sense of that from the beginning?
I kind of always knew. I always knew that. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but for me, it was the case. And then like having the actual tools and learning the math just gave me kind of like people who are illiterate. It's like they can communicate verbally, but they don't understand like how to read something. But that doesn't diminish their power to communicate. Mm-hmm. So it's that.
Okay. Now, have you experienced or have you come across people who don't practice music that comes from the heart, but still make music? Have you seen or played with people or come across people who kind of just do it from the brain?
Yeah, I mean, I was that for a long time, okay. Funny enough, because the system grows on you. When you grow up in the system, you start to act like the system trains you to act. And then like that's where, like what I was saying before, I just got kind of frustrated. But even well into my adult years, like before I applied to U of T, I found myself still behaving or still like processing stuff like the system, where I could only play what it was hard for me to actually sit down and create something and just like actually have confidence in myself that way. So to answer your question, yes, I go to music school, so I'm around that all the time. Right. All the time. I'm in the jazz department, and some of the classes that I take, like the gospel choir, for example, it's a mixture. Like some of us are from jazz, some of us are from classical. And so we have these conversations.
Great. Yeah. I find at U of T, the culture is very much segregated in that way, but it's very clear. But the intermingling is where a lot of that learning comes from. Mm-hmm. I went to Humber, so it was just all jazz and contemporary. Few classical people who were lost kind of ended up there. So our conversations were quite different, but heavily on the jazz contemporary side. A lot of listening, a lot of expression, not so much regiment and the system, as you might describe it. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, do you have any very influential teachers growing up musically that kind of inspired you to teach yourself?
Yeah. Steve Coven.
Okay. I don't know him.
Okay, so yeah, I need to write a book about my life because like it's so many different sections across different whatever. So I went to York for a couple of years. I dropped out after like 2, 3 years, but when I was there, I took Introduction to Jazz Piano
Nice.
as an elective.
That's an elective?
Yeah, because I wasn't studying music.
Okay.
I was in a different headspace, so I wasn't doing what I was born to do. I was doing something totally different. But I was like, hey, I can take this elective. So I took it, and Steve Coven was my instructor. And he taught me all the basics of like 2-5-1s, dominant 13s, how to actually structure your stuff. And, so he introduced me to that world of improvisation as well. We did a lot of that. So I will always have a special place for him in my heart because I feel like he unlocked so much. He unlocked something in me that just like opened the door for me, like opened so many possibilities and horizons. Like, oh, yeah, I could go in that direction. I don't have to stick to get my ARCT and then
Yeah.
that's it.
Did you compose before then, or did you compose only after that?
Before.
Okay. Did the process change after you kind of, your perspective was changed about the jazz, I guess the jazz approach? Did your process of composition change?
It did. I'm trying to think of like how to articulate this. Cause like I would only stay within the lines. Like I would just color within the lines. And then after being introduced to jazz, I was like, oh, like I don't have to stay within the lines. I can go outside and it can still be beautiful and it doesn't have to follow a certain structure, but I can like make it work still. And I don't know, like it's just, I feel like over time, and it's still a very present tense process, but like I just learned how to trust myself more. And like even now I'm starting to like approach composing not from the piano, because that's always what I do. I just go to the piano and I figure out chords, but it's like, what if I just didn't do that? Like, what if I wrote something using my hands or like a percussion thing? Or what if I just like, I don't know, like there's just so many possibilities.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm curious, why go to school if it seems as though systems are against your favor? Because I looked at your website and you've been to school quite a bit.
Yeah.
At York, there was, I think, web design. There was a web design thing that you did a while back.
Yeah.
Now you're at U of T.
Yes.
So why go to school?
Because I am, in addition to being a creative, I'm also very, very academically inclined.
Okay.
I love being in school. Like, I just love learning. And also, I want that feeling of like accomplishing something. I want credentials because part of my vision for my future is I want to be able to teach in post-secondary, in between contracts and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if it wasn't for school, I wouldn't be at the level of musicianship that I'm at right now.
Right.
So it's a dream come true, really, like to go to this building every day and to be surrounded by music, what I love to do, and to be connected with like-minded people. And we do gigs together, we write together. It's fantastic.
That's great. I share the same sentiment. I'm currently applying for my master's in music education at U of T.
Nice.
So I thought, I love learning. Why don't I get paid to learn? So I'm going to do that, hopefully. And once again, be surrounded by like-minded people and enjoy the process as time goes on. I'm not actually too worried about credentials, but I know credentials help perhaps with introductions. But other than that, I see no reason to, in my point of view, to weight the credentials rather than the experience and the work that needs to be done. And I guess it's nice to know that you can hold a piece of paper and be like, I did this thing. Recently, I found my Humber degree in an archive box of papers.
That's
I forgot I
hilarious.
even had it.
That's hilarious.
And it was the first time I actually opened it up and looked at it after like almost a year now graduating, realizing like, wow, I spent like 50 grand on this piece of paper. okay, back in the box it goes. And that's my relationship with credentials. But I like the idea of going to the building, sharing that community, and connecting with like-minded people. Have you found that the more you pursue your interests, you find more like-minded people?
100%. 1,000%. So I'm gonna get into kind of like woo-woo territory. So sorry, not sorry, but I do believe that there's each one of us has a specific path. It's like our soul has a calling, and I feel like when we're in line with that thing, stuff just filters into our life that makes sense. Like me getting this job at Aura, like this is one of those things.
Yeah.
Like it's not a coincidence. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense because I'm lined up.
I feel the same way. I find that I told this to my friend when I started at Humber. He was concerned about meeting new friends and connecting with musicians who wanted to go see the music that he wanted to see. At the time, it was a concert at the Rex for a band called for Mono Neon, bass player, really funky stuff. And I went with him, and we knocked back a lot of beers, and I told him that if you continue to go to the places that calls to you, the places where you find your interests lie, you'll find like-minded people, and you'll be where you need to be, and connect with the people that you need to be with. And I feel the same way about getting the job at Ort. I remember I had a panic attack when I auditioned with Dave. I'm thinking to myself, like, am I really cut up for this job? Am I gonna make it? Like, I don't really know if I'm a good teacher. I couldn't play the pop songs he was throwing at me because I couldn't hear the bass line on his little laptop speaker he told me to lift. I'm like, this is kind of unfair, but I was shaking, I was nervous. And then now reflecting on the time past, it definitely has been a lot of alignment with what I care about and what I'm hoping to do. And I can't ignore it. When you say it's a calling, it's something that like I can't. I go to bed and it keeps me up at night because I know I need to do something in this path. And the more I recognize my own path, the more I can recognize when somebody else may not even realize that they're walking towards their path. And all I can do is encourage. All I can do is share some support if possible, or just say, "Hey, you're going somewhere. Do you know where you're going?" And if they say no, I said, "Well, you'll find it eventually. Keep on going." And I met a lot of people along the way from that sentiment. And the more encouraging words I share, the more encouraging words I receive as well. And it's just a good community to share, to be a part of people recognizing where they're going. Definitely. You strike me as a very introspective person. Would that be a fair assessment?
100%.
Why?
I spend more time in my head than the real world.
What's going on up there?
Everything and everything.
Well, it sounds like a party.
Oh my God. Sometimes it's a nice party. Other times it's like a bad trip. But yeah, I'm like, I care a lot about the kind of person that I am in the world, and how I allow different experiences in life to shape me as a person. So I feel like I lean more kind of into the territory where it's kind of not as helpful, but like I'm really obsessed with like how am I doing? Like how am I doing? You know what I mean? And now it's just like I'm trying to lean into just like relaxing and being like, okay, girl, you're good. Like you don't have to obsess all the time. You're okay.
Yeah. Have you had times where you're really not doing well? And is that why you're perhaps hyper vigilant on being okay?
Yes, definitely. I mean, like I dropped out of school and I had a bunch of other things that I regret happening. So yeah, like what can I say? You just kind of learn from those experiences and it really does get better over time.
It does. It does. I think what I found is I've often worried, maybe in a similar fashion as you, how am I doing? Am I being the good person I want to be in the world? And what is my influence on those around me? Is it positive? Is it negative? Am I overstepping, understepping? And eventually I've practiced forgiving myself for regrets or forgiving others for things that are just beyond our control. In the process, I understand that there's not a, I'm not like necessarily believing in God exactly, but I understand there's things at work that are bigger than one's life, that things are in motion. And so in a way, I kind of lean on that to not give me an out, but to understand that there are things beyond my control, and that allows me to forgive in a certain way and to process certain things. But the goal of being okay, the goal of saying, I'm here and everything's fine. I might be having a bad day, but I'm alive and I'm breathing. And as soon as I remind myself that I'm breathing, it's just a step-by-step process to build up from there again. And just like remembering a song that you thought you knew, that maybe you're performing on a gig, it comes right back, you know. And often I find myself doing that.
I love that.
Nice. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have anything else to?
My mom used to say, as long as there's life, there's hope. So every morning when I wake up, because I do believe in God, so I thank God for another day. And it's another day to do this life thing and to just be here, and not just to be here, but it's another opportunity to grow more into fullness and into wholeness. And sometimes that looks like forgiving myself, which for me is a huge challenge. Sometimes it looks like forgiving other people. Sometimes it looks like repairing relationships and apologizing to others. Sometimes it looks like allowing yourself to relax and treating yourself. Like, it's moment by moment.
I find that I have maybe only one regret that keeps popping up in my brain. And it's not even something that I did. It's something that just happened that I don't understand. And I can't find the closure because the people around that event are not necessarily connected with me anymore. Although I made attempts to do so. But I have made attempts, mostly successful, to acknowledge the moments where I feel like I have a regret, where maybe it was something I said out of turn or something I'm not quite proud of. And once I recognize that, it make it my life mission for the next 6 months to track the person down, think about what I'm going to say, and in a way, perhaps I'll apologize, but really clarify, just clarify what my misconceptions were. And 9 times out of 10, the other person is not concerned about that, and they never even processed the event. And all of a sudden, I rein in on what I believe is a regret or what I believe is overwhelming versus what the reality is of the shared experiences. And I'm always pleasantly surprised that there is a lot of positivity and forgiveness throughout the whole process. I've also kind of touched on that idea, connecting it with music. I think the way I got into music was the emotional. It was a therapeutic manner. It was a way for me to express things that I couldn't express in words. Or if I could express it in words, nobody would listen to the words I said. So I had to share that with myself. And in a way, by singing a song, I was able to listen to myself say the things I needed to say. In that creation process, it also held the space of forgiveness, because I would make a mistake and I'd try again. And nothing would happen other than me trying again until the sound was sounding great and feeling good. So I want to come back to faith.
Okay.
Pursuing music has been an equal pursuit of facing down the unknown and reaching beyond limits. I've always found that if I can know everything, what allows me to learn what I don't know is crossing a threshold with faith. Because we don't know what we don't know. But in order to have some sense of direction to go past what we think we know, I find there's no substitute for having some faith in the unknown, taking a risk, potentially falling into a pit. But you still do it anyways. And I find every time I make music, it's that. I don't know what's about to happen. I'm going to make something up. Whether it's my voice or a calling of mine that happens to come through my instrument, it always comes with the spirit of faith, trusting in the unknown. That has been almost a religious experience very often when I'm making music, when things are aligned very well. So I'm curious, you being somebody of faith and believing in God, how has your time in that world coincide with making music? Do you find that I guess the religious aspect of faith coincides with the music making aspect of faith that I described?
1,000%. And for me specifically, like for me as an individual, my family and my culture, like music, specifically gospel music, has been so instrumental in shaping our view of the world, our view of ourselves, our faith, and healing the soul. And that's really what I'm here to do, I think, with music, is literally to heal the soul. Because music is, you weren't at the open mic, but after we sang and everything, we had this conversation with Julian and the rest of the guys that were there. And I was sharing that the reason why I'm so unapologetic with how much I love Disney, like I'm shameless about it. I don't care.
That's fine.
And like the reason why is because music is just that thing that, like, it's so hard to talk about because it's so powerful, but like, it's just that thing that I did and I immersed myself in just because I love it. There were no strings attached. There's no agenda. It's just like, I love this thing. And for me, it's transcendent. Yes. Like, it allows me to connect to a world, a love, a realm that is so pure. And like, I feel very fortunate to be a channel for that. And I feel like my one job as I'm performing, and not just performing, but like even like talking to you right now, like in every moment of life, my one job is to stay as authentic and true as possible. Beautiful. And I feel like once I commit to that, then everything just kind of flows and everything makes sense. I don't know if that answers your question.
No,
anything you want me to like narrow down?
Perhaps I have like two directions I wanted to go.
Yeah.
One, maybe I'll get to this one later, which is the alignment of in music and outside of music activities, kind of the holistic view of living in an authentic manner. Perhaps we'll touch on that after. But what I do want to talk about now is maybe the playful nature of the innocence of doing music. Do you have a memory? Do you have a moment in your life where you recognize very early on that this is an innocent, playful moment when it comes to music?
Yeah. I was obsessed and still am obsessed with The Lion King. Very obsessed.
Great.
Yeah.
One of my friends will be playing in the
musical. Oh
yeah.
my God, that's amazing. Yeah, I really want to see it. Mm-hmm. But for me, like, sorry, what was your question?
Was there a memory or a moment in your life that you can pinpoint recognize the innocence and playful nature of music?
The innocence and the playful nature of it. Okay, so the answer is yes, but I feel like that, like what you're describing,
is that not?
It's not, it's hard to narrow it down to like one moment.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's been my entire history with music, like from the beginning. Is it was always just like when I was small, everything I sang, it was literally just play. It was like, I'm expressing myself. This is just fun to do. And it's so enjoyable. And it's innocent. You know, it's only when I got older that
when the system bogged you down.
Not just the system, like okay. not just the RCM, but just the world in general. And you learn things, like you learn how to compete with other people. You learn how to compare yourself to other people. You learn how to not feel good enough. Like these are things that we all learn. We're not born with them. That's society teaches them to us. Yeah. Yeah. So then like that it's just being human. But yeah, as far as I can remember, my earliest memories with music have always been just pure joy.
Wonderful. I think what you describe is something that not everybody has or experiences, and I can see why you're so passionate about music. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think it's reassuring to know that somebody like you exists and lives the life of music through pure joy in that manner. The foundation of that is joy. I think I come from a different place where it comes from a place of pain. It comes from a place of reconciling and meditation in order for me to grasp the evils of the world that I recognize so clearly in the day to day that I need to make some sense of by connecting it to the human spirit through music. It allows me to sleep at night knowing that there's some humanity left in the darkest places in the world, and that's how I connect with music. That gives me meaning. I think it's what not only bogs you down, but the things in life that you recognize maybe have get in the way of that joyful thing is what I embrace. I've often felt the injustice of our leaders leading us astray, taking away moments of play, or making it harder for us to have more opportunities of joy. And me pursuing music has been equal parts becoming a musician and learning the skills, but it also has been kind of fighting for balance and peace, to allow for the opportunities that I had that gave me an inkling of the direction of music for more people, because it seems to be dwindling and those lights are dimming as time goes on, where the kids nowadays are more concerned about the pain and suffering of the future of the world rather than having opportunities to experience the joy of music. And so the system is broader than RCM for me, but it's precisely that which fuels me to continue recognizing the humanity in all the darkest places, to shed some light on it. Sometimes it leads me, it pulls me in, and it's hard to get out. But I've gone better over the years to walk the straight line and know both sides equally, to find that balance, and that helps give me my direction as time goes on. There's a lot of joy in that, for sure. A lot of perhaps satisfaction, perhaps kind of like a life-affirming feeling that what I'm doing is meaningful in that context. But there are also times where it's just pure suffering. And I also recognize that that's part of the human experience. And sometimes we got to spend 13, 14 hours figuring out a line and figuring out our score and lock ourselves in a room and make music. Sometimes we need to do that as well. And that's not necessarily joyful, but part of the process. That's my take on that.
Something tells me that both of our vantage points actually have more in common than what appears on the surface.
Definitely.
Because I want to be clear, like when I say joy and how music has been a place of joy for me, that doesn't necessarily mean happy unicorns and sunshine, rainbow sprinkles all the time.
You're right.
Like I've experienced a lot of suffering, and music to me, like when it's pure, and when I say pure, like I want to be careful to define my terms here. Like the purity that I'm talking about is it's like I'm stepping into almost like a level of consciousness that isn't even me anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's like I get that comfort, that love, that strength, that power from outside of me, and then like somehow that translates into what I write and what I sing. And music, like, it's been a safe place. It's like a prayer room for me. It's like when all of this crap is going on and, I get inside my head and things are not good, then it's like just creating that stillness of like just that stillness. And then whatever, like it depends on what comes to me, but either I'll write something or sing something, or I'll choose a song to listen to that reconnects me to that, then like that is where the joy is. Mm-hmm. It's like waking up from a bad dream.
I see. I get it because I understand sitting in that silence, in that stillness. Sorry, not silence, but that stillness. It's almost like a sacred prayer room. Every time I perform my own music and I'm just myself on the guitar and I'm singing, that first chord is my chance to breathe in the spirit of music that allows me to connect to that peaceful, sacred place. And the more I focus on that in the performance and less about, wow, there's people watching me and it sounds terrible and there's like a fire alarm going off, I can just find that place. Now, maybe in my experience, I don't think I would use the word joy because of all the connotations of sunshine and unicorns and sprinkles. And I have maybe misinterpreted that earlier. I have a closer understanding to what you're describing as that joy. But maybe the way I would describe it in my experience is almost like it's almost like finding, what is it? It's like coming home. It feels like coming home. I wrote a poem prior to me starting Humber. So I did 1 year at York University at high school. I did the music program there.
Sorry, I feel like everyone has a York story.
I just want to throw that in there. York's not as significant in this story, but I explored there. No guitar lessons at that point, but I learned what 251 is from Mark Eisenman. And then I auditioned to Humber again and got in. So the summer before Humber is my first time going to be moving out from my parents' place. And I remember feeling like I'm going to be on a journey. I'm going on an adventure. And I don't have a home because I'll be moving into random rooms and just kind of being wherever school is. And I felt that, wait a minute, no, I feel at home when I play music. So I've always thought music as a spirit, as a guest. And so whenever I'm playing music, it's a guest to be invited into my home. While at the same time, I can come to music as if it is the home in of itself by experiencing it. And so I would describe that stillness or finding that stillness in my experience as that. And it's always been quite a joyous occasion, but not necessarily a joyful feeling.
I get that. I get that. That's beautiful.
Nice. Yeah. I am curious what your thoughts are on using words to describe these profound musical moments. Do you feel like words fail you?
I think language in general is just so limiting, especially the English language. Because I feel like this language that we're speaking right now just has a way of taking the life and the essence and like the life force out of everything, and it just makes the world seem like a cold, hard, dead collection of nouns and facts. And I'm just like, ugh. Yeah, it's annoying. Where like other languages are different and like it makes sense why certain religious practices are what they are, because when you listen to how they speak and their grammar, it's like the world is actually alive. It's not just a tree, it's a living, breathing, ever-present thing that's alive. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, I feel like words really fail, and sometimes, oh, okay, so another fun fact is I was obsessed with Billy Joel during my teen years. I studied his music, I studied his songwriting, and like for him, he always starts with music, and so do I. Always. It's like sometimes, like rarely, if I really have something that I really want to say, then I'll figure out how to make that fit into whatever I'm writing, but like it's always music first, because music itself is a language, like a Stevie Wonder song. So like music itself has emotional weight and emotional meaning. And sometimes I don't always feel like writing words, to be honest. Sometimes I just feel like, okay, I want some violins, I want a marimba, I want some heavy drums, and I want a really big badass cello, you know, like I want that. Yeah. And that will be my expression, and that'll be it. That's my diary entry for the day.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have a diary? Do you have a journal?
Yes, I have many.
I'm on my second book, and almost done it. So I'm making my ways through that as well.
Okay.
My first guest on this interview was a friend by the name of Alex Fraga. He's doing his PhD at U of T. He's a percussionist studying Brazilian rhythms. He said at the end of that session that day that there are moments where words are not needed. And this was after we improvised music for about half an hour on different instruments. And that stuck with me since then, because I realized that part of my journaling experience has been trying to write down things that can't be written down, capturing a moment that simply needs to exist, or capturing a sound that can't be put into words. And it showed me that there's limits to languages, but there's complements to all forms of connection, which is another thing that he brought up, that music is all connection. But I find that living our lives is simply connection, where if we live musically, and I think this is what Victor Wooten described in his book, The Music Lesson. I haven't got through it all, but the idea of living musically is there. We can share the joyful innocence, playful manners of our musical experiences in other aspects of life, like having a conversation, or walking down the street, or saying hello to strangers, whatever it might be in our lives. And I find that if we aim to build our means of communicating on the basis of what music is to us, it helps align many other activities in our life, as well as other forms of communication. So I'm curious, do you feel similar satisfaction when you write in your journal than when you compose music or play music?
I do. I do. 'Cause I have a really big heart with a lot of stuff happening inside. So yeah, there are times when I gotta get it out, you know? It's like, what specific thoughts or beliefs are troubling me? Because I feel like I'm off somehow, but I gotta figure that out. Or not even figure it out, but I just gotta get it on paper so it's not torturing me anymore. So yeah, absolutely. And I feel like when all of that stuff is out of me and on a page, I feel like that actually clears up a lot of energetic space for me to go and create. It's hard for me to sit down and create when there's a hurricane happening.
Right.
Because I'm not, like, there's stuff blocking that connection. Like, whatever it is that's giving me the inspiration, like all of this stormy stuff, like it blocks it.
Stormy stuff. Could you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, so beliefs or thoughts or just like anxiety in general, like, I don't know, like, oh my God, I can't pay my bill. Or I said that thing to someone and it really hurt them. Or I did this thing that, oh my God, I don't know how it's gonna work out and I just don't know what I'm gonna do. Like that stuff, that.
Okay.
Like that.
That sounds like stormy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I had a question. It was, give me a second.
It'll come back if it's important.
It was, yes. When you write in that journal, do you feel like you've said something? Or somebody listened?
Yes. Like, I have two audiences when I write in my journal. The first is myself and the other one is God. It's like I know that I matter. And I know that what I'm saying matters and means something.
Yeah. Do you ever get feedback when you write in your journal?
Feedback?
Do you ever feel like you've gotten feedback either from yourself or from God when writing in your journal?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
What is that process like for you?
So I feel like the theme of my emotional world and my spiritual world, the theme is self-acceptance and love, like love of self, love of others. And so whenever I write something or I express something, that is out of alignment with that, I'll just feel this internal nudge like, that's not very kind. That's not kind to you.
Right, right. I often find myself reminding myself in that rhetoric when I feel like there's a witness to my life. When I forget that there's a witness to my life, whether it could be God or it could be myself, then those thoughts go unchecked. That rhetoric goes unchecked, where I am being unkind to myself, and I don't have the moment of pause to remind myself to be kind. It's almost like, yeah. It's just when I realize I'm alone, it's very easy for me to be hard on myself or mean to myself. But when I recognize that I'm not in the room by myself, although I might be alone, then it's easy for me to remind myself to be kind to myself. I find that being a teacher in that setting, when there's a child in front of you and you're teaching them scales, there's no room for you to think about your anxieties, your worries, because the only thing I'm worried about in that moment is this human being in front of me. And I am the witness to their life, and they are also the witness to my life. There's no escaping anything. Anything as in, there's no hiding my insecurities, there's no hiding my doubts, or there's no hiding my joy and positivity. And so I try to focus on that, but I also allow room for the honesty, to just be truthful. Being truthful in that setting allows me to align myself optimally to deliver what I think is the best for the person in front of me. And in the process, I also, if I'm truthful, I can recognize for myself when I'm being unkind to myself. But when I'm isolated, there is no mechanism for that.
Ooh. Wow, I feel like I need this conversation right now because I think I'm gonna store that in my toolbox. Yeah.
I want to talk more about teaching because I'm quite interested in that. Maybe
Yeah.
as a segue, why do you teach?
Why do I teach? I teach because I want I want to share what I know to whoever will have it. And there are people who want it. There are people who need someone to believe in them. There are people who really want to be, who have a vision of the kind of musician that they want to become, and they just need some people in their lives to help them get there. And I feel like teaching, sorry, I'm trying to get my words together because I had this conversation with Julian and he said it so perfectly. He said it's so good.
He's a good man.
He is. But like, it's like passing on the torch. And it's a way to know that this gift that I have is not just for me.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I'm giving others what I have been given. So it's like it keeps that legacy alive, and not my legacy specifically, but just like the legacy of whatever was given to me. And it's like now I'm passing it on to someone else.
Sometimes people give you gifts, I don't know, like a dish set. And you're like, I already have dishes. What am I supposed to do with these dishes? Thank you for a gift. And then you package it up again and you give it to the next person as their present.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I'm sure we all have. Now, it's crude. It's a crude analogy, but in a way, it's when it comes to passing along to the torch, it's kind of like somebody else might need this and appreciate this more than I am, because I have dishes. It's not that I didn't want this gift or didn't appreciate the gift, is that somebody else could use this gift more than I could. I think knowledge, anything that's able to be taught, is very similar to that, where one, we have to be careful what we teach and what we know or what we think we know. But then two, if it's a gift, well, we can just pass it along. And there will be people who will resonate with certain gifts more in more unique ways than we can ever imagine, only if they're given the opportunity. I would say I teach for very similar reasons. I think when it comes to music, however, and it being something that we can teach, it's it borders so many other aspects of life, like religion, like self-development, like speech, like communication. In comparison, where I can probably describe mathematics as a very secluded science, but is pervasive in other disciplines and all through life as well. But it takes some different level of specialization. In that experience of learning math is very focused compared to music, where it's maybe a little bit more liberal in how we experience it. There's a lot of life events that happen through and about music that is not just us studying in a room doing music.
Yeah.
And so for that, it can resonate in so many different ways in different people's lives, in ways that they may not have ever thought was possible. So I think passing along the gift is also one more opportunity for those positive moments to happen and to occur. And so it's as if we're sharing that, that sacred space that we experience with music with now a student in an environment that is maybe less sacred, but equally as profound, if we can allow for that to happen as the teacher.
Yeah. And also the way that I think of it, it's like it's a sacred relationship. And it is sacred because like music is sacred. And so even if I'm dealing with a child that couldn't care less or is like bouncing off the walls or, making jokes, and I have a student like that, and like he's so funny, and like sometimes I want to be upset with him, but because he's so funny, like I can't be. It's so frustrating.
He knows what gifts he's got.
Exactly. So with that said, like I feel like it's still a sacred relationship. It's like we are here, we have half an hour, 45 minutes, or however long we got, and we're going to talk about this energy, this life force that speaks to everyone. Like I don't know if this is a fair thing to say. It's whatever. I'm just going to say it anyway. But like, I honestly can't imagine that there is a single human being that has ever lived that hasn't been touched by music in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's pervasive.
It is. So like, we're going to talk about this thing. We're going to study this thing. And, for the time that we have together, I feel like this motherly kind of, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm responsible for you. And it's my responsibility to be a good example for you during this time that we've got.
Yeah. Recently, I had a somewhat, I guess, religious experience. I kind of broke down crying and thinking about almost God, but more of the idea of Father. It was after my mom's 60th birthday, which happened recently. I thought to myself that how I got here in a teaching role in music has been because of an absent father that was not able to show me what it was to communicate clearly and respectfully. And so with music, I have compensated for that and allowed. My teachers in high school were inspiring because they were the role model of what a mentor or the father figure was, that was respectful and kind, in stark contrast to my own father. And then I kind of, chased that, but also with music, trying to become the person I want to be, which is more in line with them than my own father. And then that weekend I was just going to go over to this place to get wasted and just have a good time. But it hit me that on the drive there, I just had a profound experience that I felt like I want to be a father, I want to be a dad. This is when I was quite young. I think I was like 20 at the time, or 21. And I didn't know where it came from. I started crying on the way. I felt like it was my purpose to raise a child. And there's a couple years of processing that, realizing that, I'm just at the point where I need to be my own father, because there's so many gaps missing that I need to learn how to teach myself to become the person I'm imagining to be in a positive light. And then that carried me on. I had a lot of growth opportunities to become the person I want to be. And then I realized that maybe it's not actually just raising a kid. Maybe it's it's mentoring. Maybe it's being the guide that I always wished I had. And teaching seemed to align with that quite well. And I've seen or have heard of other people who not only are fathers, but are best in their field, who find the most satisfaction and fulfillment in mentoring. And that's now their purpose. Although they can retire and live by an island or what have you, they still choose to teach and to share that knowledge. And I thought about that because maybe it comes from a acknowledgement that I wouldn't be alive in the way I am today without the mentors who shared their guidance for me, no matter where I came from. And I got to the point where I tried to see if I can guide my own father. And I did to some degree, helped share, kind of reconcile some things in his past that maybe he couldn't do on his own. And that gave me a lot of confidence, feeling that I can also be there for my own father when I desperately needed him to be there for me. And I feel like, well, now I'm at the age where maybe I'm at the same age where he would have had my brother, I guess. He would have had his own kid at that time. And then it came down to, so recently with my mom's 60th birthday, I was thinking to myself, I am now venturing on to a new journey, and I don't have a person in front of me that I can point to that is my idol or guidance or somebody that I'm trying to model that would help me get to the next point. I'm reaching another point of unknown. But the positive guidance is all around me because I've built up a perspective about music, about life, about how to interact with people, and put all the pieces together to now define my own path. But that path is not written anywhere. Nobody can tell me where to go. And so I had to look higher and reach into the unknown with faith. And so the idea of fathers came to play. And I realized a lot of my friends don't have fathers for most of their lives. Maybe I also can imagine if I've never had my own father. And well, who's the biggest father? Probably God, you know? He's the man of men, all men in that. That is my understanding of what that is. And so I almost like talked to him and I said, hey, I don't know where I'm going. I think I'm scared and I need some help. And then I realized, wait a minute, I know exactly how this feels. Because every time I sit down to write a new song or I get on stage, I say the same thing. And I'm praying that, hey, I need some help. What's going on? Like, sound guy, is my mic on? You know, in that case, I'm asking the sound guy for help. When I can't find my first note or I can't find the playful sacred space of music before I start my music, I ask myself and I ask music for help. Hey, where you at? You know, can we work on this together? Like, are we here? And I realized I've been doing this and I'm practicing this exact function, exact emotional, spiritual act along the way. And it's all been aligning with teaching, becoming a mentor. Mm-hmm. The more I teach, the more I learn, and the more I learn, the more I want to teach. And it all comes from this place of facing our fears and challenging the unknown and acknowledging our finite existence, and that we can have good moments rather than less bad moments, you know. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That's very profound.
Yeah. I know you mentioned briefly about the motherly instinct, and I thought I definitely cater to a lot of fatherly instincts when it comes to my teaching.
I think that's very beautiful, because for me, it's like I want to try, and I don't always do this well, but I still try, and I never will stop trying. Mm-hmm. But I want to be for myself and for others what no one was for me. Yeah. Because like I needed someone to like unconditionally accept me in whatever state that I was in. Like I needed that. And so some people throughout my life have suggested to me that I should be a therapist. And I don't know. It's not completely off the table, but it's definitely not on the front burner. It's not on any burner right now, I can tell you that.
Is it in the oven?
No, not even, no. Like probably like further down the road. I don't know. I just don't think I have the capacity, like the emotional capacity for that. But the point is like when I teach, and not just teaching, but like in my friendships also, like I try to make the space as safe as possible. Mm-hmm. You know, like a lot of my friends tell me like that one of the things they appreciate is that I never judge them. So I try.
I maybe I have a slightly different take on that. Sometimes my students come from very safe places to the point where they think themselves into an unsafe place. And so I try to remind them sometimes the unsafe place is really what they make of it. And so I jab them sometimes with moments where I provoke them in healthy ways. You know, it's a music class. They can't die if you just play your scales, you know. But there's moments where I pressure them into feeling what it feels like to have the walls close in for a moment. And I do so in a light way. And it allows them to exercise their ability. And as soon as they realize that they have the ability to expand the walls on their own accord, then I remind them of all the judgment that just passed in an instant, that they're immediately anxious and they're hard on themselves and they're critical on themselves until they realize that they overcame a challenge that was, for an instant, far beyond them, by realizing that their instinct took over, that they have the ability. These little moments of growth happens all the time in music. When we practice, when we accomplish something, when we nail it that first time, those moments I feel like gives us the confidence that we are capable. And in the face of a challenge, we are able to trust those instincts more, the more defined they are. And in music in general, it's often a relatively low risk activity compared to like cooking or being in the military, where the consequence of failure is a lot higher, or in different circumstance in a different way. And so by practicing that in a musical way, I believe we'd all move forward, and by building our capacity to challenge those unsafe conditions with the ultimate goal of creating more safe conditions. But sometimes we have to be reminded of what an unsafe condition is in a safe environment. So that's my perhaps contradictory take on creating safe spaces, because sometimes we need to remind ourselves what it is not to be safe in order to reinvigorate our ability to create safe spaces.
I like that.
Now, the movie Whiplash comes to mind, but that's a little bit...
Oh my God.
That's a little offhanded.
That, yeah, that'll keep you up at night.
For me, it mimicked my high school experience quite a bit. There's hockey sticks involved. There are only a couple of cymbals involved. A lot of chairs and a lot of music stands. Only bled twice.
Are you serious?
But it was a good time. I still appreciate all of my experiences.
Okay.
Now, we don't need to get into that.
Okay.
We don't need to get into that. I want to talk about gospel.
Yes.
Let's pretend I don't know anything about gospel.
Yes.
What's going on? What is this thing?
Gospel music is community music. It was born in the spirit of community. It lives in the spirit of community, will forever exist as a community music. Mm-hmm. And it was born out of the experience of enslaved Africans who came to this, or who were stolen and brought over to this hemisphere. And the one thing that the oppressors couldn't take was the soul and the music. Mm-hmm. And so my ancestors found a way to keep that music alive and that heritage alive. And there's certain elements within gospel music that just make it what it is, like really tight harmony. It's a community effort. Like, even if there's a person that's like leading the song, you need everyone singing together. And it's about transcendence. It's about hope and endurance and faith and grief. Humanity. It's a music about humanity.
Wonderful. How does the music... So, gospel takes place in church?
Yes, it does.
Where else does it take place?
At my program, UT Gospel Music. It exists at York, different institutions, and Humber too. Right? Humber does have a gospel department. There's community gospel choirs all over the place. I actually auditioned for, I auditioned for a queer gospel choir, and I was accepted into it, but I couldn't. It was just too many commitments at the time, so I had to turn them down. Yeah, so like you can find it anywhere, especially in Toronto. You kidding? Yeah.
I am curious how the environment plays a role in the creation of the music.
So this is the thing about gospel music is like, and I feel like Black people in general, like we have this. If it's not hitting, we're not gonna lie to you. We're just not gonna lie.
I appreciate that.
So it has to be real and it has to be genuine. It just has to be. Sorry, what was your question again?
I'm curious how the environment plays a
Yes,
role.
the environment. Yeah. So like I feel like like in general, but especially with gospel music, like if it's not an environment of encouragement, if there's any kind of bad blood, if there's any kind of weird vibes, politics, it's just, I don't know. It just kills it. Like that's been my experience. Like you gotta make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of our intention, specifically with our intention to get together and make good music and to know that we are all in this together.
So that makes me wonder, what are your other musical experiences or environments? For example, it could be like jazz, like a jazz combo or what have you. And is that not also encouraged?
Absolutely it is.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. I think like I'm a pianist in my ensemble and I feel like there's this kind of weird thing that happens when you get to hide behind an instrument. I don't know. I don't know if that's the thing that other people experience, but for me, it's like, oh, I have my piano, so I don't really have to be seen all the way through. You know, I'm just like here doing my thing. But like when I sing, there's no hiding. And it's like, because my body is the instrument now. Like I am the instrument. And actually one of my mantras that I tell myself now is like, forget about, you know, having a bad vocal day and all this other stuff. It's like, I tell myself like, Kimberly, you are it. Like you know, it's not your voice. It's not the this, it's the not the that. Like it's from you. That thing, that magical thing happens, like it's from you. Right? So yeah, having a positive environment, having like communication, because gospel is all communication, like just like jazz, like it's all communication.
What other environments have you had, or what other musical environments were you part of where that wasn't happening?
The system.
Okay.
Because the system makes you, I love how that's what we're calling it now.
Yeah.
But like, it makes you live inside your head. You're not really present.
It's interesting because a lot of that old classical music that the aficionados take very seriously was often made for the church. And I'm curious, for them, it was their way of connecting to their higher powers and in their faith. But it seems that because of the environment or the way we communicate around the music, perhaps takes away from that, or it's just not something that connects with you. And it's not just you, it's like a lot of people. I feel the same way about this system.
So I have two answers to this. On the point of it just doesn't connect with me or with you or with us, I feel like that's partially true. Obviously, because it's like times are different now. Like that was 500 years ago. Like our ears are different. So
tuning is different. Got strings, we have steel strings. The wood resonance has changed. The places where we play the music has changed. We don't make concert halls the way we used to. They don't resonate the same way they used to.
They don't. Yeah, so there's that piece of like, just aesthetically, it lost its, it lost the fire. But then on the other hand, I also feel like academia, white supremacy, all of these different forces of like, this is real music. And you got to learn to do this, and you can't do parallel fifths. And I've listened to music with pure parallel fifths, and it's amazing.
Yep,
Okay,
I
so
concur.
I understand like if you're writing specifically for like 4-part chorale, then yeah. But like when they act as if that's the only real, like this is the top of the totem pole, and everything else is like beneath, then I feel like that also kills.
It's not the vibe.
It's not it. And it kills it just makes it so unappealing, and it's just such a drag. It's like, I don't want to be a part of the, and like, don't get me wrong, like, I actually, believe it or not, I still want to complete my ARCT.
Great.
I do, because I believe in finishing what you start. And I feel like playing classical music kind of increases my technique as a pianist, and it gives me more to pull from. So I want to do it, but like my reasons for wanting to do it is just because I actually like this music. I don't like the the energy around it. I don't like the all of the stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of that.
I think it's a lot of interpersonal stuff. I've met a few of my peers who are heavy in the classical world, who truly love the music, and they speak about the music as any of my jazz bros do. I can't believe I said that, jazz bros. But any of my other peers who like a lot of different types of music, or different styles of music, and I find it equally as intoxicating when I hear them talk about, I went to go see one of my friends at a Kitchener Symphony. She played Shostakovich, and I saw ghosts, and I cried, and I felt profound things I've never felt before. And she was telling me that, yeah, you're gonna experience some shit because this music is heavy. And I'm like, really? Is it really that heavy? And she couldn't stop talking about it. I experienced it. I couldn't stop talking about it. But it got to a point where that experience is far and few between because of what it takes to play that music, that it was hard for me to pursue constantly. Whereas jazz, I can see jazz often. I can listen to pop music often and still feel that excitement. But yeah, so the individual who truly loved the music was able to share the same joy as my other peers with different styles of music. And to me, I wondered, what if I was surrounded by people equally as excited about classical music as her? Maybe I would have stuck in string orchestra when I played violin.
Well, you know what? I feel like they're touching on a really important piece here because I kind of feel similarly. I took a composition class 2 years ago, and my professor showed us such amazing music that to this day, like some of my passwords, I should say this.
Don't say that.
No one has to know what it is. Like some of my passwords are like from some of those compositions.
Fair.
Because like they're so good, and you really get lost in it. Oh my god, no one has to know what it is. Yeah. So let me just tread carefully here with what I say next. But there's this one piece that we all had to give. We all had to analyze different sections of it. And when I listen to that composition now, like there's this one specific section in it that's just so beautifully orchestrated, so romantic. It just sucks you in. And I actually cried when I listened to it. I'm like, why am I crying to this? Like, what's happening? But like, it's that good. It just is that good. And like, so my favorite composer that I've been exposed to so far, and I'm not even that deep into classical music like that, but Liszt, I love Liszt because he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's insane. And I just love his insanity. Like,
It's very energetic. The handful of pieces I've heard and known of Liszt is that it's got this energy to it that it's just like kind of real edgy, but he's like at ya. You know, he's like doing this.
I know.
You can imagine him just in the room, like, hey, check this out.
I know.
Feels good.
And like you recognize a laced piece when like in just like that. It's like, yeah, that's you. Mm-hmm. And like he also had such a intimate and romantic side as well. So I learned his third consolation, and I love talking about it. And actually when I interviewed with Kate, I played that piece for her during my audition, and I started like,
she plays piano as well, right?
She does.
Yeah.
Very well. So I was like nerding out to her, and I'm like, yeah, like he takes you through the cycle of thirds, because first you're in D flat, and then you go to F minor, and then F minor, and then da, 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 da. And she was like, oh. And then halfway through, I was like, oh, wait, shit, I just nerded out on you. Sorry, I'm having a job interview. Let's get serious. Like,
but isn't it quite amazing that we can do that for our job interviews, and it still be okay because we got the job.
Yeah.
And you nerded out. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
I would say that maybe other jobs that would be hard pressed to be okay with that. That's great. That's great. Wow. Sorry, I think I got off topic there. Thanks for sharing. I love that. I'm curious about. So the reason why I brought up the environment in gospel is because for a while, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I went to church every Sunday, and I wasn't sure why exactly, but I knew I needed to see it for myself and to experience that. So I went for about 5 months. There's a couple of churches in Parkdale area, and then I went to St. Clair West. My friend's the musical director there now, and I went and I tried to compare why do people go to church, and what is it all about. I realized that the church that I was going to in my area didn't have a lot of music. There wasn't a lot of singing. When I was expecting perhaps some choir performances and we could all share a song, they would talk about the scripture and connect it to our lives. The community would come together and share good words and catch up. And I thought that was all very nice. The community was very strong. But I missed something, and it was music. So when I went to the other church, it just always felt more connected. I felt way more connected to singing with my peers, talking about the music, and there's a lot of emphasis on the sound of the place. One, it sounded amazing, acoustics were great, but they also had, they put a lot of their budget in an array of speakers that were well balanced. So when they had spot microphones for the house choir or any other instrumentalists, it felt like it really moved you in that space. And I realized that the music being created in that space could be whatever it is the people needed to hear. He would often play some jazz stuff. Nathan Hiltz is his name. He's a jazz guitar player and he's the musical director there. But he also brought in his friend who tap dances. I think his name is John something. So in the middle of service, you have a guitar player and a tap dancer improvising to, the priest sharing what he needed to share. And I thought to myself, this is amazing. This is amazing. Because now all of a sudden we're all coming together, and we're understanding the words that the priest was saying in the context of this musical backdrop. And it's just all happening all at once. And it felt for a moment are we allowed to do this? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? But I realized that, no wonder why I was curious about the church is actually I was curious about the music. And I realized for me, it served that purpose to connect with the community, to be introspective as much as it is to connect with a higher power, to find guidance and solace in life, and to grieve about the things I needed to grieve about, and keep on growing and keep on sharing as time goes on. It just so happened to be that it was in the church, but I also do that at the Rex. I also do that at the Jazz Bistro. Or I take a moment when I'm on my commute and listen to the subway people at Yonge and Bloor and hear them play. And I say a prayer and I say thanks for the music and I go about my day. So that was my experience in that. But I found that the environment catered towards that music as well. And that's why I asked about the environment with the gospel.
So I think, first of all, tap dancing, that's really interesting. And I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that. I think there needs to be a distinction between gospel music as a genre and as a practice versus church culture.
Okay.
Yeah. Because not all churches, not all religious environments are created equally. because like I was, when you mentioned tap dancing, you might have seen me chuckle a little bit, and it's because like in my world and in other worlds that I've seen and been exposed to, there's some really conservative mindsets that would say that's not okay, that's not reverent enough to God, and so like that wouldn't be a thing. Right. But it sounds like this particular community that you visited is really open to all kinds of expression, and it's like as long as the music's good, as long as it helps connect us, and you know, like I'm a big believer that God lives in community, and so it's like if we're all connecting to each other, then we can all connect to God simultaneously. And it seems like that environment was a lot very liberal and accepting like
Right.
that way.
Yeah, I like that idea that God lives in the community. One idea that comes to mind, I thought about on and off for a while, is that like we are all God in of ourselves because we are all full of endless possibilities and have the ability to create, although not from a all-powerful stance. It comes from the shared power within for all of us. So I like that idea that God is in the community, because if we can recognize our endless possibilities within ourselves, we can't escape the recognition of endless possibilities in another. And I think that's what love is, kind of seeing the endless potential in our people. And then when we all come together to kind of share some of that, then we're all of a sudden a lot more powerful in our numbers than we are individually. And with that, you can overcome anything or shine light on anything that you need, that we all need, really. I think music does a good job at gluing it all together.
Well said.
Nice.
I literally have nothing to add.
Okay. Thanks for listening. That was great. I have more questions. What exactly are you doing at U of T?
What am I doing at U of T? I'm studying.
Why you gotta say it like that?
Like, I feel like I want you to be a little more specific. Like, what courses am I taking?
What program are you in? What courses are you taking?
Yeah, I didn't.
What's your end goal?
I didn't realize that I didn't say that clearly in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
So my degree is in jazz piano, specifically jazz comprehensive studies. And what that means is, unlike performance majors, comprehensive majors like myself have a lot more room in our upper years to do other things. So for me right now, I am taking film composition. I'm taking one-on-one composition with the same guy that taught me ear training last year. He's wonderful. We really bond with certain things.
What's his name?
Andrew Downing.
Cool, I've heard of him. Is he a bass player?
He's a bass player.
Yeah.
He's a badass bass player. He's really good, and he's an amazing composer as well.
Wow.
I went to his show last year. He, you know, Nosferatu, like the silent film, whatever. So he composed a whole score over that film.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was great. So he is teaching me composition, and I feel very honored about that. So there's that. I'm also taking African drumming.
Awesome.
Gospel choir, as you know. And for one of my electives, I'm taking a course called The Philosophy of Religion. So I think it's really interesting how this conversation kind of just veered into that territory, because like I like talking about this kind of stuff.
Good. I'm glad that you're taking an elective that you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference. One elective I took at Humber was Good and Evil. Prior to that, a bunch of politics stuff, democracy and dictatorship, revolutions and revolutionaries. Because at the time I recognized that I ignored politics for a while, only becoming aware that the politics was making my job harder and my education harder. So I thought, okay, crap, let me figure this out, because this is going to be an issue very soon.
Yeah.
When it came to Good and Evil, the professor, his name was Mark Whale, classical violinist. He loved music and he taught musically. And I did so well in that course, and I gained so much from it that I ended up going to his house for his birthday and playing for him.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he invited me to some of his house concerts as well. And it was beautiful to see how I followed the music regardless of what course it was. And it still led me to good places where I learned what I needed to learn. Yeah. So I hope you learn what you need to learn from that course too.
I will.
Yeah. Now, perhaps we can wrap it up soon, but I have a few more questions about what are your plans for the future? What are some of your goals that's happening in the near future?
Yeah, so I would like to pursue a master's degree in film composition or film scoring. Um, for me, I get the most joy and energy out of listening to like Broadway and theater. I haven't seen the Color Purple musical, the whole thing, but that song that Celie sings at the end, I'm Here. I don't know if you've
I don't
seen
know
it.
yet.
Yeah, but it's things like that. One of the, okay, so I went to Beyonce's concert last year, and her pianist, her name's Emily Bear, and she's a film composer, and she's doing Moana 2.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a good gig.
Yeah, that is a good gig. Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff that I see myself doing, writing songs with and for other artists, writing songs for Broadway productions, theater productions, scoring films. Yeah, traveling.
One of our colleagues, if not past colleagues at Orit, was also a film composer, bassist and pianist. I forgot her name exactly. Bethany, I think. I'll get you into contact with her, but you might enjoy a conversation with her.
I love that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so masters, doing all of that, and traveling because I have wanderlust, lots of it.
What does that mean exactly?
It means I just want to see the world and go visit different places and have different experiences. Like I want to climb mountains. I want to swim in undersea caves. Well, maybe not undersea caves, but I want to see coral. I want to go like scuba diving. Yeah, caves underwater, that's kind of terrifying. But I'll see caves above ground. Like I can do that.
Yeah.
Above ground, not underground.
Good.
Yeah.
Very nice. I think traveling has been great. For me, I realize that I enjoy seeing new places, but often it's predicated on the people. So being in the city, I like to go for long walks. It could be hours, end up in a different corner of the city, and all of a sudden, these buildings feel different, people feel different, and now I'm seeing somebody's life in a different way because now I've walked their neighborhood and their life is completely different than mine. And sometimes I don't need to go far, I just need to go down the street. And that's enough for me to give me some insight, some appreciation of where I am today and where I could be going in the future. But I definitely want to travel as well. One place that's always been on my mind, I don't know why exactly, is Istanbul, Turkey. For some reason, I've always wanted to go there. And I've been meeting a lot of people bit by bit that are from Turkey or know of Turkey or love the music that eventually they go play there. But it's a beautiful place that I want to check out.
So I feel like that's in line with your soul. So you just need to go, like just go. And maybe there's something there that will speak to you. There's something there that you need to hear, someone you need to meet, music that you need to hear so you can be inspired. There's something there that you need to go and see.
We'll see. One reason why I want to do these interviews is because I found, I guess one conclusion I come to is that people make music. And so I'm in the people business. Kendrick said it in one of his songs. But I agree with that, in that if I'm to be a music teacher, I need to understand the people that make the music. And I found that one of the best ways of learning about people is to sit down and have a chat with them. And it's always a humbling experience to sit down and chat with people. So thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thanks for having me. Like, I'm very impressed by your setup. I thought that, I thought it was gonna be like like a one camera, like a one tripod with your phone, like, you know. So I'm impressed. And thank you for taking the time to have me. Absolutely. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Kimberly, everybody. Nice.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Want to clap? 1, 2, 3. Hey. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very lovely.